Hi, my name is Sean Shaughnessy. I'm with MDKS Development Company here in Kansas City, Missouri. Today I'd like to talk with you about an investment that I have under contract that I believe will be of interest to you. It's up in St. Joseph, Missouri. If you're not familiar with St. Joe is about 45 minutes north of Kansas City, and people regularly commute back and forth from St. Joe to Kansas City and back. St. Joe is home to a number of large companies, and as a result, there are many people that decide that they want to live in Kansas City and enjoy the amenities down here and commute up to St. Joe. And there are many people in St. Joe that decide they love the cost of living and the nice casual attitude up in St. Joe, and like commuting down to Kansas City for work. So anyway, what do I have to offer? Well, it is a 3-quad complex, 12 units total. 10 of them are currently vacant, 2 of them are currently occupied, and they are based in St. Joe, about 6/10 of a mile from downtown. If you're at all familiar with St. Joe, the downtown area of St. Joe is undergoing a renaissance very similar to what you may have heard about in Omaha and Oklahoma City. If you have visited either of those two areas, you know that they have done just miraculous things in both Omaha and Oklahoma City. As far as revitalization and bringing tourism back to their downtown environments. Kansas City, actually, I got to toot our own horn as well. Kansas City's done a pretty good job as well with the Sprint Center and the Tower and Light District, etc. as well. Nevertheless, like I said, we've got 3 duplexes, 10 units that are ready to go, 12 total, 2 occupied. I have this property under contract at $325,000, which is about $27,167 per unit, which is darn near unheard of even in St. Joseph, Missouri. If you're not familiar with St. Joe, it is about 76,000 people. Some of the major employers there would be a major meat packing group. That major meatpacking group, however, it's very interesting what they do. They have lots and lots of spin-offs because they are owned by a major Fortune 500 company. One interesting one would be that they render the fat from the pork processing plant and they turn it into biodiesel. Another major employer would be a major medical center that is owned by one of the country's preeminent medical centers located up in Minnesota. You can probably guess which one it is. Also, there is a very large offshoot of a large insurance company located in St. Joe, as well as a lot of folks that are techies. A lot of millennials come to St. Joe, and the reason why they come to St. Joe is because Kansas City was the first city in America to have Google Fiber, which is that 1 gig speed, internet speed, and Google Fiber is very quickly moving up to St. Joe, and just the opportunity to have Google Fiber in a very cost-effective, cost-friendly neighborhood speaks for itself. There are a lot of millennials in St. Joe because they're looking for their first job in tech or healthcare or whatever the case may be. And unlike Generation X, my generation, or the folks older than we are, the folks of the millennials and a little bit younger, they haven't necessarily bought into the same American dream that we have. And owning a home isn't as important to them as it is to Gen X and older generations. As a result, a lot of these millennials, they still want to rent, and if they are younger, they want to rent an apartment. And if it's going to be an apartment and they have a very strong salary, they want to rent an apartment in a good part of town. And if you go downtown and you take a look at the loft type apartments that they have downtown, they start at $550 a month, but that's one apartment downtown. That's 417 square feet, and good luck getting it. They go as high as $1,600 a square, $1,600 a month, and that's for a 2-bedroom. And the interesting thing is that you cannot get into any of those apartments right now. They are filled up, and when a vacancy does open up, they're gone just as soon as you can get your application in. So there is a really distinct need for housing in the St. Joseph market. The apartments that I am talking about are 6/10 of a mile away from downtown St. Joseph. As a matter of fact, if you were to stand at the top of the hill right outside of the apartment complex, you could look down and see downtown in all of its glory right there. Right diagonal from you would be a building owned by the Community of Christ, which is also known as the Mormon Church. Down the street some more would be some beautiful century-old Victorian homes. And to the south, up a couple of blocks, you would find the parts of the St. Joseph Historic District. The beautiful thing about this particular investment is that right now, if we were to first of all, a little history. The current owner of the property has owned it since 2006. And since 2006 to 2011, he owned and managed it himself, did a good job of doing so. Okay. In 2006, he decided to go ahead and sell the apartment complex under a contract, a lease option, to somebody that, for all intents and purposes, did absolutely nothing to the property except collect rent and, I don't know, maybe plunge a toilet every now and then, and that was the extent of his upkeep. And let the property go downhill, rented to everybody and anybody, drugs, crime, the whole bit. It was really a mess. So the property owner that owned the equitable title to the property came back in. The guy obviously didn't renew the lease because he walked away, which is, gosh, a shame. Because the current owner, again, is having to deal with his junk. But the current owner has put about $80,000 into this property to bring it to make ready for tenants that want to pay $450 to $500 per month. But our goal is to make these apartments make ready for about $585 to $615 a month. And to do so will require, instead of having paint on the hardwoods, which is not uncommon for apartments that are that need to be cleaned up in a quick and inexpensive fashion, we need to sand and polyurethane the hardwoods. We need to do some painting that would provide accent walls and things like that. We need to redo some of the bathrooms, and we need to refloor the kitchens and put some appliances in there, as an example. But as it goes, probably looking at about $5,500 to $6,000 per unit in order to get them up to the point to where we can increase the rent $115 to $165 a month. So I think that's a good investment. Right now, as it stands at $325, the gross rent multiplier is at 4. If we bring that up to about $390, we're at 5.52, which for a gross rent multiplier of 5.52, we're still looking really darn good. The other neat thing about this particular property is that we have been in negotiations with one of those major employers that we have been talking about. And they plan on hiring an additional 200 workers just this year alone And these workers are coming to town and they need a place to live. And the company wants them to buy into St. Joe. In other words, they want them not to look at St. Joe as a place to just simply have a job. They want them to look at St. Joe as a place to have a home. So what they have asked us to do is to supply them with an ongoing production line of places for new employees to live. And this happens to be one of those places that they would like to do. We have collateral materials with this employer that they are not endorsing, because they can't legally endorse it, hey, go live at this place. But what the HR department is doing, and we did meet with the head of HR and his direct report, what they are doing is they are saying, okay, you need a place to live. Here is some information on a place to live that you might want to take a look at. And we're told that 15 to 20% of the people that come into HR and say, hey, we need to find a place to live, 15 to 20% of the people that come into HR say, we need to find a place to live, okay? So if I've got 200 people, and let's say it's 15%, that means that I've got 30 people that are going to have my flyer in their hands coming to look for my 10 slots in my apartments. And I think those are pretty good odds. If I go ahead and if they hire more, or if I decide that I'm going to talk to a few more other employers of the that employ folks of the same ilk, and there are folks that do that, up those odds go even more. So I think there's a fairly good chance that we are cash flowing in a fairly quick manner, and we might even be cash flowing to a full extent within, say, 3 to 6 months, let's say. So here I've got a full analysis of the property. If you will sign a non-disclosure agreement, I am more than happy to provide you with a quick copy of this. It is not prepared by Sean in a spreadsheet. I assure you that. It's actually commercial software that I use to analyze the projects that I decide that I want to invest my money in. And I think you'll find that what I am looking at here is not necessarily a bad idea. We're probably not going to cash flow too much here this year, but in year 2, we probably are looking at a cash flow of close to, let's see here, probably looking at a cash flow of close to $35,000. In year 3, we're looking at a cash flow of about 40, and that's of course, after we've got the debt service and all that kind of good stuff as well. Okay, so the other compelling thing is that if we hold this for 3 to 5 years, if we're right, and if that millennial spread moves from downtown and creeps up the street, we're looking at a sale price at least within the next 10 years of about $1 million. So not only are we getting a considerable amount of free cash flow from this investment, but we're also getting a nice return on our dollars invested on the sale, on the exit strategy. So if you would like to take a look at this, I would be happy to put this in your hands. Just simply give me a call or email me. The information is there on your screen. Happy to put it in your hands and let you take a look. So thank you so much, and I do appreciate you listening to what I have to say. Take care. Bye-bye.